The wedding. Why are they getting married? Lucy asked me as we sat in church, awaiting the beginning of the much heralded wedding between my cousin Tanya and the reluctant groom Fitzroy. We are in church, I whispered to Lucy. Why don't you wait until after for us to badmouth your sister's nuptials? Fitzroy has 4 baby mothers, Lucy said furiously, and Tanya had to go and mix up herself with this uneducated, uncouth, ugly-looking gold-teeth boy. Have you seen the dirty color that he dyed his hair? And do you notice that his pants are never on his hips? She paused, catching her breath. A garbage collector, she huffed, discarding the idea of whispering. After Mama and Papa spent so much money to send her to teacher's college, she go hook up with the gold-teeth garbage collector. She had a look of utter disgust on her face. I tried to calm her down. Lucy, lower your voice. People can hear you. Make them hear, she said loudly. Make them hear. Everybody's here for the drama anyway. So why did you come? I whispered as people filed past us. I would not miss this travesty of a wedding for the world, she said with a haughty look. Do you know who came to Jamaica especially for the occasion? No, I said distractedly, as I waved to some of our family members who looked eager for the wedding to begin. Regina, Lucy said loudly, the vampire from foreign. Regina? I said in shocked surprise. Skettle Regina? She has a nerve showing her face around here again. After she stole my solid gold watch and Auntie Perlita's rainy day money? She same one, said Lucy, her lips pursed in displeasure. Rumor has it that the man that she married to get her stay in foreign beats her every day. Suit her right. Watch Uncle Louis. All him confides the food. Lucy pointed at Uncle Louis, who was waving to us excitedly, as if he had not seen us for a while. Uncle Fishy chose that moment to come and sit beside us, his fish-like appearance glistening with sweat. He smiled at us, his teeth protruding from his gums. Clara, Lucy, he said, nodding. Hello, Uncle Fishy, we said in unison, and giggled. His face puckered into a frown at the name, and his bulging eyes closed in pain. There is Fiona, Lucy said, looking behind us. I turned around, and sure enough, there was Fiona, Fitzroy's first baby mother. She had 2 children for him and 2 for somebody else. She was dressed completely in black. Dress, hat with veil, gloves, and scarf. She had her 4 children sitting with her, hugging them alternately while dabbing her eyes with her black handkerchief. The church was filling up steadily, and everybody was waving to each other and smiling. The small community in which we lived in rural Jamaica was notorious for its weddings. Every other Sunday, we were at one. It would not be in anyone's best interest to have a wedding and not invite the entire community. Formal invitations were unnecessary. We had one church, and once the wedding date was known, everyone would just show up at the appointed time. Even those whom you liked or disliked, or who you would never want at your wedding would show up. Look at that, Lucy pointed at Patricia, Fitzroy's second baby mother. She was dressed in an off-white dress, and her long hair was piled on the top of her head in a sophisticated style. She was the most stylish of the baby mothers and the most educated. She was a pharmacist and worked at a pharmacy in the town square. Her son Leo was to be the ring bearer. You see that? Asked Lucy. She wants to be the bride, that's why she's dressed like that. Lucy cut her eyes at Patricia, and Patricia retaliated by doing the same. Hey, hey! Lucy exclaimed loudly, and everyone turned to look at us. Look, pon Carmen! We all turned to see Carmen walking up the aisle with her twins. She was Fitzroy's 3rd baby mother and was the youngest of them all, having gotten pregnant for Fitzroy in the 10th grade. She was not very intelligent and had a severe stammer. She was unemployed and lived with her parents. Today she wore a blonde wig, which seriously clashed with her dark complexion. "What time is it?" whispered Uncle Fishy. 3 o'clock. "Wasn't this thing scheduled for 2 o'clock?" His eyebrows rose quizzically. "You know how these things are." "Well, I took a washout from last night," he mumbled, "and I expected that the reception would be starting right now." "Oh," I said, "you're feeling hungry?" "Very," he emphasized and rubbed his stomach. I understood perfectly. It was a regular practice at weddings, and it meant that the more food that was provided at the reception, the more successful the wedding was deemed to be. When there was a wedding, nobody cooked Sunday dinner. The pastor and the bridegroom were standing in place, and Miss Rebecca was playing the bridal march. We all turned to the door in anticipation to see the bride. Instead, we saw Regina, her tight green dress emphasizing her voluptuous figure. She paused at the door for a while, and Miss Rebecca stopped playing. She then hissed her teeth and strolled to a half-empty bench near the front of the church. Everyone was watching her, and she was preening for all she was worth. Her long green wig swayed behind her as she stepped as if she was on a catwalk. "Hello, y'all," she said in her affected American accent. "Hi, Auntie Perlita, long time no see," she said mockingly and waved to Aunt Perlita, who was trying to control her anger. "Thief," somebody in the back hissed. Regina looked up before sitting. "Oh, hi, Lisa, is you? You never get the comb I sent for you in the barrel to comb your tough wig." Lisa was about to argue when the wedding march started again. This time, Tanya was the one at the door. Fitzroy stood nervously. His hands were twitching and his face was sweaty. Tanya was resplendent in her white off-the-shoulder dress that Miss Zane, the village dressmaker, had sewn for her. She came slowly down the aisle. Her serene features appeared to be a confidence booster to the intimidated Fitzroy. Lucy was whispering furiously in my ear. "You see that?" "What?" I asked, puzzled, while I tried to maintain a smile as the bride approached our pew. "She used loudmouth Keisha as her bridesmaid, and me," she said, pounding her chest, "her only sister. Only thing she offered for me to do was to usher. Usher!" Her voice rose angrily. The bride stumbled when she heard, and then continued her march, her hands clutching the bouquet tightly. Keisha heard and stopped suddenly amid the march, her chest heaving. Her tight blue bridesmaid dress appeared bursting at the seams as she breathed as if running a marathon. She turned around to face us, her eyes blazing. "Me no have to do this, you know. It's Tanya beg me. Me dey here pan Fitzroy side a family," she shouted above the strains of the wedding march. The rest of the wedding party came to a standstill behind her, trying to calm her down, while Lucy cowered behind me. The grinning congregation looked on, and the wedding party filed to the front as previously planned. Pastor Cummings was a young pastor and new to the district. He looked a bit flustered and out of his league. "Ahem," he started. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today for the holy matrimony of Fitzroy and Tanya." The wedding continued without a hitch until it was time to exchange the vows. "Please say 'I do' after the following statements," said the pastor. Fitzroy looked uncomfortable. "Do you, Fitzroy, take Tanya to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold till death do you part?" "I does," he said loudly, causing the bride to jump and the pastor to cough uncomfortably. "Fitzroy," said the pastor softly, "it's 'I do,' and not so loud, please." "Yes, sir," Fitzroy replied. He grinned, and his gold teeth glinted in the sunlight that was streaming through the church windows. Lucy shuddered beside me. At that point, a soft moaning sound, like somebody was in deep pain, could be heard coming from the back of the church. The vows were repeated. and the wailing from the back of the church developed into a high-pitched, keening scream, like the sound of a tortured animal. We looked around. It was Fiona, her face twisted in a caricature of agony, bawling as if someone died. Lucy whispered to me, "Did someone tell her that this was a wedding and not a funeral?" Everyone was looking at Fiona, who was now holding her belly and bawling for all she was worth. "Fitzroy!" she bawled. "Poor Fitzroy!" She got up from her seat and sat in the middle of the aisle. "Fitzroy!" The shocked bride was standing at the altar, her face a study of consternation. Fitzroy was swallowing and looking haunted. "Will someone remove that woman from the proceedings?" the flustered pastor said, while he straightened his tie. Fiona was removed, wailing and squealing. "Fitzroy, rescue me! Fitzroy, rescue me!" Lucy was laughing softly, and I could hear snickers and guffaws coming from other sections of the church. Patricia's son, Leo, the ring bearer, looked very handsome in his little suit, which was identical to his father's. He held up the ring pillow with a little smile on his face. Evidently, he was proud of his role in his father's wedding. Then Regina got up. She flicked her wig over her shoulders. "Fitzroy," she said in the hush of the crowd, "why did you not use Craig for your ring bearer?" Her fake American accent amplified by the silence of the church. Craig was her son and the same age as Leo. "Why do you have to use Patricia's dry-headed boy?" Her accent was disappearing rapidly, and she folded her arms and started to tap her feet. "I go away for a little while, and my child is aligned?" "Maligned," somebody said in the back. "Whatever," she said, snapping her fingers. The church was laughing. I could hardly see straight. I was holding on to Lucy and we were having a ball. Tanya hung her head while Fitzroy swallowed convulsively. "Silence," the pastor interjected. "This is the house of the Lord. You can't just interrupt the proceedings." He did not get far with his statement when Patricia stood up. "My son is not dry-headed. Your son," she said, pointing at Craig, "is a little barrel boy who has neither mother," she spun around and looked at Fitzroy, "nor father," disgust evident in her voice. "Oh," said Regina angrily. "Because you think you work a pharmacy, you're better than anybody else. Go a girl. Your boy head dry, 'cause fear head dry. Besides," she said, her accent chipping in, "everybody knows that Craig was born from good stock," she said, pointing to her person. "Listen to me, you gutter snipe. I will not embarrass myself with you," Patricia said regally, her head held high. "What you call me? What you call me?" Regina shouted, heading for the other side of the church, her high heels clicking on the concrete floor. "Low-life thief," Patricia hissed, heading for Regina. "I second that," shouted Aunt Perlita as she watched Patricia advance to Regina. The bride started to cry, and the groom stood looking helplessly as his two baby mothers headed for each other. Before they could start fighting and entertain us further, Uncle Bob snatched Regina in mid-stride, and another cousin held Patricia. They were dragged out of the church, kicking and screaming at each other. I was of two minds. I wanted to watch the wedding, but the proceedings outside would be even more entertaining with the two baby mothers tearing each other to pieces. It took a long while for the congregation to settle down. Lucy and I were doubled up in paroxysms of laughter. She paused long enough to say, "Me tell you, say a trouble she had take up on herself. Fi go married to a man with 4 baby mothers." Uncle Fishy belched loudly beside me. "Fling on the ring and make me go eat," he shouted loudly, and the congregation started a fresh burst of laughter. The bewildered pastor was obviously taken aback. His expression was one of shocked surprise. He cleared his throat. "Can we move on with the proceedings?" "Yes, sir," the congregation declared, before the bride and groom could say anything. We were all ready for the reception, especially since Fitzroy's father had killed 2 goats and there was a variety of baked products including sweet potato pudding. The pastor continued, and the wedding seemed as if it would be incident-free from there on. However, the fatal question was asked. Is there anyone in this congregation who is opposed to this man and this woman being married? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Everyone turned to look as Carmen put up her hands. Me, sir, she sing-songed as if she was in primary school. It's been 2 months now since me get some money from Fitzroy. Me need to go a hairdresser and get my hair done. Everyone started to laugh as she pointed to her blonde wig. She ignored us and continued. Me has to go to the dentist and me has to buy clothes for the Christmas party next month. Me can't wear the same clothes me wear last year. Me not give you no money, Fitzroy bellowed from the front of the church. You spend the money when me give you for the pitney them upon yourself. It's lie you tell Fitzroy, she said, wringing her hands. What if me buy little necessities and go to the hairdresser? Mama tell me say that baby father responsible for. How you can't afford wedding and you can't give me little hairdresser money? Fitzroy shook his head in disgust, and Tanya looked like she was ready to faint from embarrassment. The poor pastor was completely out of his depth. This was not like anything that he had seen before. Get this woman out, he yelled, pointing at Carmen. Are there any more baby mothers in here? He asked Fitzroy. No, sir. It's just 4 of them, said Fitzroy sheepishly. Can we continue now? The sweating pastor asked. Yes, sir, the congregation replied, as the bride and the groom nodded. The proceedings continued once more, and then the signing of the register was to be done. While the bride and the groom were in the vestry signing the register, they had arranged for Aunt Leonie from the United States to sing at that time. She had a deep, rich voice that was beautiful to the ear. However, Miss Zane grabbed the mic from Aunt Leonie, her big bulk blocking her from the congregation, and effectively pushed her away from the podium. I asked the one Tanya when I was making the wedding dress if I could sing today, and she said yes. So go and go sit down and listen. Aunt Leonie bowed out to the bigger bulk of Miss Zane, and we all sat in anticipation of hearing her. She was not known for her singing talent. She started with an off-key rendition of There Is a Fountain Filled with Blood, and then followed with All Things Bright and Beautiful. Lucy sang along with Miss Zane, laughing intermittently. What did I tell you? She said, a pleased expression on her face. This wedding was a drama waiting to happen. I now present to the congregation Mr. and Mrs. Fitzroy Spigg, the pastor announced after the bride and groom returned from signing the register. We cheered. We had no idea that the wedding would have actually continued after so many distractions. Mr. Spigg, you may now kiss your bride, the pastor intoned. Fitzroy grabbed Tanya and gave her a long, winding kiss that had Lucy gagging beside me and the congregation cheering loudly. The wedding march was played once more, and the bride and the groom walked down the aisle. Their faces beamed and they looked happy. We filed out of church slowly, with Lucy hemming and hawing all the way. Stupid, stupid girl, she kept mumbling. At the front of the church, we patiently waited until our time to congratulate the bride and groom. Thank you so much for coming, Tanya whispered in my ear. No problem, I said, hugging her. It was the most eventful wedding I've ever been to. Luce, Tanya said, smiling at her sister. I realized you're not pleased with my choice, but I want your blessings. Lucy sighed and then relented. Okay, Tanya. God bless your union, and may you have many little spigs, with Fitzroy. Don't have too many though, he already has 6. Tanya's composure slipped a little, but she just hugged her sister. She was as oblivious and calm as ever. Lucy and I just stared after her in awe as she gracefully greeted Fitzroy's entourage of baby mothers. They say love is blind, I said to Lucy. But this beats blind, Lucy retorted. This is deaf, dumb, and drug-induced as well. We laughed and walked together to the family house for the reception. If you enjoyed this, like, comment, and subscribe. Check the description box for more stories and find my books on Amazon. See you in the next story.